if someone's 18 now, they were born in 2002, the 90s. Ethan, just the other day, asked me. I said, because he started school, right? He's what, kindergarten? You said.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me the other day. He goes, "How is?" Oh no. I said, "How's school?" I asked him, "How's school?"
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Like, you learning anything? Like, And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you know about September 11th?" He asked me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of looked at him and I was
He
like,
asked me too. I forgot.
I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Yeah." I go, "Actually, I remember when that happened. I was alive. I remember it
Yeah.
very vividly when it happened." And he was kind of like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then he ran off.
No, well, what I was about to say
Uh-huh.
too, at work, there's some kids, and they're like in their teens, and I trip out because they're like, oh yeah, I don't, I wasn't old enough
He
to
goes
remember.
like, "Yeah, I don't remember." Like all these kids, I don't remember. Fool.
Yeah, or I don't know.
I learned about
and
it in
then
school.
and then I forgot that my brother was just a baby, Sammy.
Sammy?
Yeah, he was just a baby.
You
when it
remember
happened.
September 11th, Sammy? Oh. Really?
Yeah, I was in the 3rd grade.
I was in 7th grade. How does that math add up? I'm 30, so I'm like 2 years older than you. It was 2001. I remember it was right at the beginning of the school year because it's September. So it was like end of 2001. September 2001.
Yeah, so if
So-
you're 3 years older than me, right? I was in the 3rd grade. You'd be,
7th grade would be 5 years.
Then I guess I was in 4th. Yeah,
Yes. 3.
yeah.
Actually, no, that's 4 years. Wait. Yeah. So that's 4 years. Okay, yeah, so you're in 4th. Okay.
I just remember our teacher walking in and pushing in that fucking TV cart. You know how they had the
Yeah,
TV with
yeah,
the VHS,
yeah.
pushing it in, and then we're all sitting there. We're like, because they didn't let us.
Did
sit
they
out.
make you like watch the news and shit?
Yeah, well, this is what happened. We get there,
Uh-huh.
they're not letting anybody line up outside like normal, so they tell everybody straight to their classrooms. So we go straight to our classroom. There's a lot of kids that are missing. Some kids that are there. Some kids that that stood home, I guess. And we get there, and the teacher's not in there yet. They just have us there. They served us our breakfast and shit.
Mhm.
So we're sitting there, and then finally, Mr. McMullen comes in. Big, tall, black dude just
Mhm.
walks in all slow.
Mr. McMullen?
Mr. McMullen.
And he was your teacher?
yeah.
Okay.
So then he walks in. He pushes it. He pushes the card in, and then he turns on the news. He hits it on, and when he turns on the news, we always see is the picture of the 2 towers right on fire.
Uh-huh.
And then he looks at us and he goes, "Students, we have been attacked."
Damn.
Yeah, and that was all he said. And then we were like, "Oh," so we were like, "Oh fuck!" And then we started watching the news. So yeah, it was quite.
Students? We are under attack. Every man for himself. I remember. Okay, I was in the 7th grade, and I remember my dad didn't know about it until he dropped us off. So we would wake up, and he would like make us eggs or whatever. We'd eat breakfast, and then he would drive us to school. Me and my sister, and my brother, I think even. I forget. And so then he dropped us off, and he said as soon as he dropped us off, then he turned on the radio, and that's when he found out what was
Yeah.
going on.
Mm-hmm.
He turned on the Stern show. Stern was still on FM. We were
Right.
still on terrestrial radio, they call it. And so he turned on Stern, and then Stern. And in fact, the Stern broadcasts on September 11th because they were in New York. They broadcast from New York, Manhattan.
Yeah.
So they were in New York when
When
they were working in Manhattan when that shit went down.
Oh shit.
So they were on it. Anyways, that broadcast is like, it's like a famous broadcast now. Like a lot of times, like around this time, September 11th just passed. Around this time, I'll start to see like links more on Facebook. I'm not really on Facebook anymore, like because I only really use Instagram.
Right.
But I'll see it like on maybe a news feed or on Facebook. It'll be like, oh, listen to the Howard Stern broadcast on
Yeah.
September 11th. Anyways, so back to my own experience.
Uh-huh.
I remember going to school and somebody was like, "Oh, did you hear some other student? Did you hear that they bombed the towers?" And I was like, "What? Bomb tower?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, bomb?" And I was like, "Okay." And then we went to class, and then like the teacher was like, they didn't bring the TV, they didn't turn the TV on,
Mm-hmm.
but the teacher, Miss Weber, her name was. She was my science teacher. she
Miss Weather.
yeah, Miss Weber. I remember she had red hair. She just like was very serious in front of the class, and she said, "Okay, do you guys want to talk about what happened today?" And I was like, "What happened?" Like,
You're the only one.
like,
What
"Teacher,
happened?
what the hell are you talking about?" And like all day, everyone's like. So eventually, I went home and kind of like found like I knew about it, but I still didn't truly comprehend what was going on. And then I went home and then I started watching it on TV. And that's when it was like, oh shit, like fuck, this is crazy.
Oh fuck, man, shit. Eh?
So, but the funny thing is, there was a teacher that was at my school. He's retired now, but he was like he was a 7th grade teacher, and he was like infamous throughout the school because he was like he had a really tough curriculum. He was like known for
He was the hard ass teacher.
He was he really coveted grades and really pushed students and gave us like really difficult work. And he would like covet the kids who got good grades, like who scored high, and then he would berate the kids with the fucking bad grades. Actually, it's funny now that I'm thinking about it. I remember in his class, he had single desk, like the desk with the chair, and then the little like thing under to put your book,
right?
And I remember like that he was the only class that had that. Every other 7th grade class and 8th grade class, for that matter, still had like tables where you would like sit at a table with like
like 6 people.
Yeah, like 6 people. You're like facing each other in this. Yeah. We were still doing that, and like that was like old. That's what like high school kids did. Like like that's when you're an adult. Then you go and college and shit. So it was like infamous. I was like, oh yeah, like his class is not a 7th grade. It's like hard. Like you have to. This ain't no baby shit. So I remember he had 5 rows.
This ain't no baby shit.
They're gonna be doing arts and crafts. So I remember his name was Mr. Glick. Yeah. And he was from New York, and he had this really thick New York accent. So he would say things like instead of saying saw, like, oh, I saw her, he would say I saw her. Or he would say idea. Instead of idea, he would say idea. And we all used to really like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Why does he say that? Yeah. We didn't realize he had a New York accent. You know what I'm saying? And or he had like maybe it was like a New England accent or something. He was somewhere from like
you fucking knock.
Yeah, no, not that, not like a Brooklyn like hardcore accent, but he just had like this like kind of New York like accent, but it was a little, I don't know, maybe it was New England, I don't fucking know. So anyways, he had 5 rows, single chairs, and it was 5 by 5, I think. And you had team leaders. So the person who sat at the front was like the leader of that row. And then
oh shit, we used to do that in Catholic school.
Yeah? And then we all had like rows, and then and I remember one time he made me a team leader, and it was like a big deal for some reason. He was like bestowing upon me this responsibility.
He's like knighting you with the ruler.
It was like a big deal. Like, oh, like I think you're smart enough to like, and like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I think you have the potential to, because my grades were not really that good. Like,
you were like, no, sir.
Yeah,
you don't
understand
what you're doing. I'm gonna fuck everybody behind me.
I remember he would give us blue book exams, and we would have to go to the store and like buy blue books. They're like $0.25 or something. And he would give us essay exams. So like we would study whatever we were studying, and then every month or bi-monthly, I don't remember, we would have tests, and we would have weekly quizzes. And what happens is he would have the quizzes with 5-question quiz. If you got 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, then you would go up. He would make you go up in front of the class, and then he would quiz you, and then what would happen? He would like quiz you. It was like a game show where he would say a question, and then if you answered wrong, then you were cut and you had to sit down. And the last man standing is like get some dog. Sort, like top dog, and it was really kind of cutthroat. And I remember like always feeling like inferior to the kids who had. And then what happens is if you would win the contest, they would give you a disc. So it was a sticker, a round sticker, and he would give you like this sheet of like green construction paper. Then you would put it in like the binder you had for your class, but like like there's the plastic outside of your binder, so you put it in there, and you would have disc, and the more you want, the more he would do this every week. So like certain students would accumulate disc,
Right.
and then so like there was kids who had a bunch of discs, then there was kids who had a couple discs here and there, 1 or 2 discs,
Yeah.
and then there were some kids who had no disc,
Oh shit.
no disc at all, not a chance, and
Not a chance.
and it seemed so important at the time. And I feel like, but I remember, I think I had 1 disc, and I was proud of that motherfucking disc. Let me tell you, I was
This
like,
disc
hell
here,
yeah, like
you still
I
have
could
it
do
framed in your room.
No, but like I just felt like for one, it just felt good to think for at 1 week, 55, however many fucking weeks we're at school, fucking 36
You were
weeks
the
or whatever.
shit.
1 week I could hang with the big boys, even just that, because some people didn't have shit.
Yeah.
And the people who had the most disc were usually the team leaders,
Uh-huh.
and then there was always 1 girl and 1 guy who had the most discs.
Right.
So whoever had the most disc, they would be Mr. and Mrs. Disc, and I'm not making this up. So it was like whoever had the most disc was Mr. Disc, and yeah, that's all. I don't know. I just
And you
remember.
guys got nothing for it, just the
It was
disc.
just disc, and it was like just
didn't
bragging,
exchange
just
it
like
for
bragging
anything?
rights, I guess.
Yeah. Weird.
And I remember like, and then of course like the kids who like, and then you had like kids who were like in the middle who would average like 3.
Wait, so
if you got 3, it was a passing grade. But if you got 2 or 1 out of 5, then it would be considered like.
and then you guys found out that these discs melted steel beams at the Twin Towers, because what did this have to do with the September 11th? Why'd you bring them up?
I forgot about that. Okay, so the again, this guy was known to be like a hard ass,
Right.
and the big thing was that he was a military guy. He was an ex-colonel. He was a colonel in the army.
Uh-huh.
And he was like in love with the army. Like he was all about the military. I think our teams were called like Charlie, Alpha, Mega,
Oh, shit.
Beta, like the
Yeah.
whatever they use the
Yeah.
call letters for like the Air Force or something. And I don't think Beta is one of them. Foxtrot, you know what I'm saying? Like all
Yeah.
that shit. So the rumor was that someone so in the morning we would go to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would usually arrive at school about 30 minutes 30 to 25 minutes before the bell rang.
Right.
So there would be like this 20-minute hangout
chill,
sesh,
yeah.
right? Where you're hanging out in front, you're waiting for class to start. If you're cool, you might have some money, go to the vending machine. Now you're drinking fucking Gatorade at 7:30 in the morning, thinking you're a badass.
Fucking
And
Monster and shit.
yeah, well back then they didn't have Monster back then. I remember like the shit they had in the vending machines was like, remember Fruitopia? You don't remember Fruitopia?
Mm-mm.
Fruitopia was like this like Powerade type drink where it wasn't soda because it wasn't carbonated. It was just like high C or something, like a really sweet like fruit drink that had like red and blue and shit.
Oh shit. Okay.
Fruitopia. Look it up. It's a real
Oh,
soda.
the plastic.
Yeah, the
one.
plastic
Oh
bottles.
yeah. I remember that.
Remember like that, and they had like Powerade. And like I remember everything back then. People were like, oh well, Powerade's good for you because Powerade is like Gatorade, and Gatorade like makes you strong because
Yeah.
they would market it as
No
like
one had idea. That
yeah,
it
no
was
one had
fucking-
idea that like you have to actually work out
Yeah.
to make these shits work. You're just drinking sugar. So in that small 20-minute window of hanging out before class started and everyone sort of murmuring, not really fully comprehending like what's
what just
going on,
happened,
someone started a rumor. Oh, for some reason that day, Mr. Glick was late.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I didn't have him. Okay, now I remember. I didn't have him for first period. I had him like for after lunch or something, or before lunch. I think so. During recess, word started to go around that Mr. Glick had showed up late that day. That because because of the attacks, that he was really affected, and that when he came to work, that he came in his full-on colonel uniform, and that he had like his
Yeah.
like all his like
ready to go
awards
and
on,
shit. Yeah.
and like he came with his helmet, and he had like all his honor, all his
Stupid. Okay.
badges and this
Yeah.
and that. So there was a rumor that started to go around that he came to work in full regalia, and that he was like preaching like America this and America that,
Yeah.
and everybody believed it because he had such a humongous reputation as like this patriot kind of guy.
Oh shit.
And I remember then going after recess, going either to my next class or going back to my whatever class I was in at that time. And I remember like thinking like, oh man, like I'm gonna being excited to see if this rumor was true.
Yeah.
It wasn't true, obviously. But then like so yeah, that when I think of September 11th, I think about that rumor.
You think
all the
about
time.
Mr. Glick.
I think about Mr. Glick. And so the reason why I got on that other tangent about the whole grade thing is I remember feeling inferior a lot of the time.
To Mr. and Mrs. Disc.
To just anyone who was smarter than me, and it made me feel dumb.
Why? The competition?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was such like no other class was like that. People, you went, the teacher taught whatever they taught, you would take tests, everyone got a grade, and whatever your grade was between you and the teacher and your parents.
Right.
Bad grade, good grade, whatever.
Yeah, nobody else knew. That's
but
right.
he had built this system where everybody knew
Yeah.
who was good and who was bad, who was the best student and who was the worst student. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it just sounds very old school.
Yeah,
You know.
that's what it is, Mr. Disc.